don't need fresh water, you don't need fertilizers and pesticides and large swaths of land.
It's very low impact. A lot of the other things that we grow in aquaculture requires us to feed it something. Seaweed doesn't need that.
The algae we are growing, they double in biomass every month. We can harvest every 2 weeks, take half of the product out, and then it'll double back and we can harvest again 2 weeks later.
This only requires salt water. As long as the seawater has enough nutrients in it, the seaweed will grow. And generally our water here in California has more than enough nutrients.
We think that it can be a really sustainable, environmentally friendly way to grow food for the people of our state while not having a significant impact on our environment.
So a way that we grow a lot of our seaweed here at Moss Landing is in tumble culture. Some seaweeds can grow vegetatively. If you have one piece of seaweed and you can break it into two, those two pieces of seaweed will grow. And so all this really requires is a tank, some seawater, and some air. The air is just really moving the seaweed around.
We are the largest on-land aquaculture seaweed farm in the United States. We raise algae for use in different restaurants around the Central Coast, state, and the nation.
If you're ever at a restaurant and you might see some seaweed on the table, there's a decent chance it came from Monterey Bay seaweeds.
We grow 8 species.
This is nori. And this is the one that you'd grow and eventually gets put into a sheet and you use for your sushi. A green seaweed called ulva, they grow a couple of red seaweeds called ogo and dulse.
Most of the US don't eat seaweed like they do in Asian countries, and so we need to think about what can we do to create extra markets for seaweed to stimulate this growth.
We in California don't have that expertise or understanding of algae as a food. We're used to lettuce and kale and things like that.
A lot of them are used at industrial scales for pharmaceutical needs, chemical needs, biomedical needs, animal feed, fertilizers.
There's a whole new culinary opportunity out there for algae.
It's kind of like viscous, I don't know what it is. Umami, there we go. When you don't know what it is, it's umami.
The ogo, I think, is my favorite just because it has this really great crunch.
This is the one that we also found was the best one to feed to cows.
Recent research that we've just completed is looking at feeding seaweed to cows to reduce methane emissions. Cows produce a bunch of methane. California has more dairy cows than any other state, and recently we passed a law requiring a 40% reduction in methane by the year 2030. Here's an opportunity to grow seaweed for a relatively large market, and will help stimulate the development of that industry.
We then grew it, literal several tons of it, and then sent it off to Wisconsin to feed to actual cows.
There's a lot of environmental benefits from producing algae.
But if you compare California seaweed aquaculture compared to other countries, we're less than a speck of dust.
Japan, China, seaweed aquaculture is a huge, huge industry.
So I think what would really help to foster sustainable growth of the California seaweed industry is changes and improvements to the permitting system. If we can come up with a way to pre-permit areas for seaweed aquaculture, that would mean that the seaweed farmer just has to grow seaweed and they don't have to think about all the other aspects that most farmers never think about. California should invest more in seaweed aquaculture. Right now it's very much done by the bootstraps. There's lots of innovative people, but they don't have those resources to go out there and set up farms.
So here at Moss Landing Marine Labs we have a private-public partnership.
The Marine Lab gave us the opportunity to start our for-profit company on the university's land in exchange for providing educational opportunities for students. And at this point, we are now paying back for energy use and et cetera to the Marine Lab. So it's been a great example of how that initial collaboration allowed a company to be formed that then contributes to hiring students, giving them opportunities, and then actually paying our way over time. Seaweed aquaculture, it's an opportunity to be had. California has the opportunity. We have a lot of passionate researchers, scientists, and business people that want to grow a healthy product for our own people to consume. There are just huge challenges, both financial and regulatory, that keep us from growing very quickly.
There's a lot of people that are very passionate about seaweed aquaculture here in California, and they're very innovative. And I think that combination will really help seaweed aquaculture become an industry and a sustainable, valuable one.